has nuts in it. We're a nut-free school. Hello.
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 I love tacos.
You do.
Even
Wow.
this. It has a picture of her.
Is that from SpongeBob?
Yes.
That's
I'm
awesome.
bringing the water.
Beautiful. So welcome to Call to the Principal's Table.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, and that's Seth. I'm
Seth is
Principal
with us.
Marianne. I'm here with Miss Lori and her son
Hi.
Seth, and
And
of course my dear Miss Mendez.
yes, and I'm wearing a blue shirt, so
Yes, you are.
It's a Spark Elementary education for an inspired life.
Okay, hold up. Hold up. Take a nice breath. Yes, Seth.
Did you hear? Pay attention what she said. The breath.
Take a nice breath. And I'm just going to explain to everybody what we do here. So here at Call to the Principal's Table, we look at situations that come to my desk at Spark Elementary, and we show you how we solve the problems that arise in a school, how we make decisions, how we deal day to day with the amazing things that happen and the difficult things that happen. Today was actually our last day of school. We had early dismissal. Everybody was out by 12:30. And here I am with very little voice left because the last week has been filled with end of the year celebration and ritual to mark the ending of a year, the beginning of summer, and getting ready to move on to the next school year. And as I was thinking about that, I thought that this has been the first year for Spark,
Right.
as Spark. And I said, in the end, I lost my voice, but I also found my voice this year. And part of what I found is my commitment to an education for an inspired life, like Seth, you told us, because that means educating our children, their minds and their hearts, their bodies and their souls. And one of the things that happens at the end is we get a chance to exhale and celebrate, but also reflect.
Yes.
So this is an example of what my desk looks like, all right, where lots of gifts come in and cards and well wishes. And I say, I don't know how parents even begin to get gifts for our teachers because every one of our students has about 15 teachers because
So many.
every teacher is a teacher to every student.
Right.
So our students are held by this community of teachers, and so they're like, who do we thank? Everyone, right? And I so appreciate the thank yous. I didn't even get a chance to look at these, but these are some of the thank yous that came in. Thank you for opening up your school as well as your hearts to our son. We've seen such a drastic improvement in our boy and how he feels about school in such a short period of time. And it's due to the Spark community, right? It's all about community. You have been a blessing and another reason for me to trust in the faith and the journey.
Oh.
Come on. I just wanted to say thank you again for your understanding of what we were going through. I truly appreciate your kindness. I am so happy that you are continuing to give us this opportunity to share the adventure of Spark. Thank you for this magical school. We will surely miss it. Thank you for helping me grow. Look at the handprints.
Oh my
So
God.
cute. Thank you for all that you do. I am so happy I found your school. and that our daughter loves being here. You are an amazing person with so much experience, skill, and genius. This is what keeps us going, right? The gratitude.
Yes.
Thank you for all the opportunities you have given us to grow and try new things. Thank you for your endless support and enthusiasm. And so it goes, right?
I like when you're reading the cards, you know the words that I'm hearing. And this is a good measure, I think, of where we've come this year. A lot of these words are words that you framed as like just a kind of an outline of what you hoped the year would be last year when you were writing what you pictured your school to be. And they're thanking you for with the same language that you used
Right,
to say, who are we?
enthusiasm.
Who
Yeah.
are we? You spent months trying to picture what do we want to mean? What do we want for children? They're using words like community, the growth, spark, support.
Yes.
And these are words that you first decided it should be. So that's really, really good feedback to hear, because
It's true.
that's what you were, that was your hope last year. And it's so different to do, like, make some manifesto. We stand for this, and it's a whole other thing to live out month after month after month of it. Totally different.
Completely, because it isn't something that just happens consistently.
Right.
But when the value and the belief is planted, it does grow and change over time. I had to do a talk for our 5th grade graduation. So I find on my desk this quote. I'm like, where did this quote come from? But it's perfect for graduation. I later find that Ms. Mendez just happened to leave it on my desk, not even for me, right?
I just forgot it.
She forgot it. But this is the quote, and I put it in because I feel like it captures the authenticity of what we're going for. And it says, life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing. Hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living. Heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, ordinary, awful life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful.
Oh. I told you the meditation.
It's so key, because there are plenty of days that were amazing at Spark this year.
Okay.
There were days that were awful. There were a lot of days that were mundane and routine. And there were days that were breathtakingly beautiful. But to look at every aspect of it as wonderfully alive is really the work. And I think that's even part of the reason that we did the show, this being the closeout show of our first season, was to say we do not want to paint the perfect picture.
That's right.
Because we don't have perfect every day.
Right.
We want to paint a real picture. And if I think back over some of our shows, Seth, do you remember what you talked about on our show when you were here?
I'm thinking about something that I love.
What are you thinking about?
It's on my mind.
What's on your mind?
Oh, tacos. That's because I love tacos.
You love tacos.
Just meat and cheese.
Just meat and cheese. You know what?
Remember when you were on the show last time?
No.
But you're not alone in loving tacos.
Okay,
And look,
and she-
I have the Mexican piñata on the show. Have you met him?
No.
This
I
is
never
my
met him.
bull, Ferdinand the Piñata.
I had never saw that guy before.
You didn't see him in Spanish?
Not
Were you
even.
not there that
No,
day when you
no,
did Spanish
no.
piñatas?
I just saw the other piñatas, not one like that.
Well, part of the reason that I love the bull, one, because I'm a Taurus, so I understand how stubborn bulls can be. But bulls also are known for getting really, really mad. Right, Seth?
Yeah.
They're called raging bulls. And the last time you were on the show, we were talking about how your out of control mad feelings came out. Do you remember Angry Dragon?
Thinking dragon and wise dragon, of course.
What's
With this.
Ta-da!
With the speech of dragon. Of
The
course.
thinking dragon
And the wise
and
dragon.
the wise dragon
The
and
dragons are back.
the dragons are back. But what brought you to the table was
Okay.
your angry feelings were coming out by doing what?
You know what?
Hitting. Do you remember?
Well, I have to tell you something.
Tell me if
You
it's
know
related.
What will happen tomorrow?
What?
I will miss these dragons. I'll miss you and you
Oh,
and you
Steffi.
and everybody.
So then our dragons will be sad. And what does Wise Dragon have to say about that? Sethi, Wise Dragon says, when you miss someone, that means that you loved them. So be happy that you in fact cared about the people around you this year. That tells us that you love them. Right? I know you're super sad.
I'm gonna miss you guys and Safi and then them and then
Her-
Principal Marianne and her.
Yes.
I understand. What does
And I.
Thinking Dragon say about that?
And there's one last thing I will miss. That pinata.
Super Pinata. I found him in the garbage because
How did
after you guys
Wait.
pulled the strings and the candy came out, he was in the garbage. I'm like, you cannot throw away this bowl.
She rescued him.
I love him. It's my new hat.
Oh, that's
yeah.
So I am now the bull mother.
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding
So-
me.
I, as the bull, say, I remember when you used to get super angry. But I haven't seen you angry in a very long time, Seth. Why is that? Hmm.
I cannot remember.
What do you do now when you get angry?
I don't know.
Do you just feel calm?
No.
Sometimes you do feel angry.
Yes.
And what happens? What do you do? Does Thinking Dragon know?
I guess. Ask the. Get him to ask Thinking Dragon, please.
What happened to all Seth's anger? Where did it go? What does he do now when he gets angry?
What do you feel?
I actually feel sad
And happy?
and happy that I loved everybody at school and I have friends now that I'm going to miss. And I don't hit them to be friends with them anymore.
Yep, that's right. So I know why Seth is angry.
Why?
Because I remember him hitting, throwing the cards during math.
You remember,
And then
it's
it
a
stops.
memory.
So what happened and then it stopped?
How did
completely?
it stop?
I think
Wise Dragon might know.
Wise Dragon might remember the most.
Let's see. And Miss Mendez is going to become the bull. Toro. So, Wise Dragon, what changed?
I guess Seth maybe hit it, throwed cards during math.
We did. How did it stop? What does he do now during math?
He actually gets those he's good at math and maybe sometimes eat tacos on every Tuesday.
So he looks forward to eating tacos. Is that the reward for not hitting and throwing cards?
Cause Seth eats tacos every Tuesday.
Tacos are the cure! Yay! Toro!
me to sit
Top
and there's
goes heel. I agree.
I like
I
when-
keep.
like one of the things about Spark that I want to say about you is being angry. Seth can't pinpoint what's changed,
No.
and I can maybe name a few things that changed in the process. But one of the things, and I don't even know how to word this, but it made me realize when he's saying, like, he vaguely remembers being angry, and you're like, so what do you do now? He doesn't get angry. What does he do now? He does math. And we always talk about not changing the nature of children. But instead of changing what other people might take as like, oh, we're changing this nature to hit, instead you moved him towards his true nature, so it just fell away. And he's like,
I don't even remember
I don't remember it because it was not really him, and you just trimmed away what wasn't, because for him to have good behavior, and for children in general to want to cooperate, to want to do things together, that is our nature as people. And I think he found his nature, and because it's never about changing, because Seth has his ways, and he's set in his ways. There's things about him we won't change, the spark. And I think it's just removing what's not. And sometimes people can excuse it like, well, I get angry, I'm intense, this is my nature.
Yeah.
Is it? If it's purposeful, that's you've got
Different.
to the nitty gritty of your nature. But I think he doesn't remember because you removed part of it. It's not because what he's doing now feels so natural. He can't remember not doing
Well,
it.
I love that theory because it says that it's subtle rather than dramatic.
Yeah, you can't
And
name.
and it's not based in fear.
Right.
It's not, I'm afraid to get in trouble. And one of the things I noticed with Seth was there was a period where the hitting, we got to what was underneath the behavior, which was, I want to be friends with
Right.
Anthony. I want to connect with the girls. And he would do it in this hitting or dumping and laughing way. So once that was mapped out as there are other ways to connect, there was the bridge towards that. But then the other thing, and I don't know if you noticed this, Miss Mendez, but there were plenty of days where Seth would just march into our office, right? And what would he say?
I'm in the red zone.
I'm in the red zone. He knew he
And
had a
yellow
place to
zone.
go into the yellow zone or the green zone. Or he would say, hey, Anthony just hit me. Or I didn't like what somebody else did. So there became this space for him to get support,
Support is what
get
it is.
help. And one of our fifth graders actually made a statement. He made a reflection, and I'm actually going to read
Listen
this.
to what she's saying about older children.
He was talking about, we asked our fifth graders to reflect on what they learned here. And he actually wrote a bit of a poem. He said, I used to always hide in a place that wasn't wide when I was mad and feeling sad. People always tried to help, but I always felt too angry to accept. And then I'd be left with regret. I did not expect to change so much. I am such a different person in fifth grade because of a lesson I learned. When I let people help me, my anger fades and my happiness stays. And so there we have the lesson in, and I think this has to be a choice from the child themselves. Am I ready to let someone help
I think too, I remember the last day I ever saw this child this angry. And his parents had come in and spoke with
Yes,
you and
we
I.
sat at
This
the
is the
table
last time-
together.
It's not a formula, it's not a spell.
No,
We
it's
say the
not a
words and
quick
it
fix,
happens.
right?
But I do remember before that it had been, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. And it was the one time that it was like, you had said, you run it, what do you picture? And we'll help you get there. And then we spoke, instead of we really saw through all that who we saw he was, and not what people do, right? Like wrong or mistakes. To be a mistake, wrong as you know when you do it anyways. That's stuff. And sometimes it's bad stuff, icky stuff. That's stuff. But if you can see past the stuff and you're like, you're not going to fool me by saying I'm all of this. I can see what's on the other side of that. And they are like,
this
it really
person,
is.
right, is safe. This person is safe to help me.
This child smiles so much now. I've never seen, I saw one time the beginning of the year that he came close. And it was the first time somebody was like, find a spot, calm down, and he was able to come back. And that's the last time I've seen it like that.
No, and it was. And for him, he basically, it was stages. The first stage was, all right, if I lose control, what's the point anyway?
Right.
I'm not going to get what I want, right? So we're not reinforcing that. So then what he would do was just shut down completely.
Yes.
And he'd be at my table staring at me. And I'd be like, we're going to sit this out.
Right.
And I'm not ignoring it. It can take us 3 hours. We are not moving on until we can talk about this. And we would sit there and stare at each other. Remember Ms. Mendez? I'd be like, I'm a bull. I could wait it out. I'm stubborn. And then he would finally open his mouth and talk. It would take us 2 seconds and he'd be on his way. So he started to get, wow, if I process this, it's going to take 2 minutes and it's over. So this letting people help.
That's beautiful.
And Seth, one of the things that I am very proud of you for this year is you let the puppets help you.
I know.
You let them help you.
Can you remember I was in the red zone and the yellow zone?
I so remember. And then you
I had to get into this zone.
You had to get into the green zone because he was thinking before doing. But you also got into the wise dragon too sometimes.
That's brave to trust kids. I mean, it's reasonable and it's most right, but it's also pretty brave for adults to trust kids with like wisdom, because wisdom is something different than academics and everything else, and to trust them to speak for a wise dragon. You're letting them, you're like saying, we can't trust you to behave, but we're going to trust you with a sacred voice.
Right.
That's wisdom is sacred. And it's like, you can't control your body, but let's start with the voice.
Well, and for me,
that takes courage. I don't know that I always have that courage, but you do. That's why it takes different people.
And you're talking about something that really is based in a belief that, you know, we all come from our disciplines of faith.
Right.
And so for me, I hold the image, I'm a Catholic, right? So I hold the image of Jesus as a teacher with the little children.
Right.
And the words were, these are the ones who are closest to the sacred word. And it is our job to be able to hold them in a way that they can help us remember the simplicity and purity of wisdom.
It's good to hear. It's something,
right?
I mean, I'll still be working on this at some time.
But
even to hear it, I at least, I don't know for me what the journey will be to getting that more, but I do know I trust you with it more than at some time I did. And I'm not afraid to say that, because why would I? I was unfamiliar with anything like the school before the school.
Right.
So it's, but even to hear you say that when I'm like, something I would probably have said to my son, I'm a little embarrassed now because of the company I'm in. Before, I'd be like, you don't even know what to do with your hands. You are not telling us what we will be doing next. You can't even control your hands, and you're going to tell me what you think you need. It sounds only when it's left my mouth and I'm hearing it back, it sounds silly and mean, but my thought process is that makes total sense. Like, if you can't control your hands, like, you're not who I would go to for guidance right now.
Well, and look,
it's a different, but
there
it's
are
so much to
layers.
be learned for people willing to do that.
Well, and to get through it. So, you know, Seth can say, I need a Dunkin' Donut to be able to do this. And we might say, you know what? The Dunkin' Donuts not an option, but the taco with meat and cheese, that you could work on that one we could work on. And so moving in that direction of what what is it, like enduring your journey with them to get to the truth.
And they endure the journey with the word you were using in this past week was by empowering them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get a donut because we have our reasons. We know the whole breakdown of what it's going to do in your body. But we're going to empower you enough to say, I'm in enough control to say I do want a taco or a reward of some kind. But it's like
we're yes to the taco.
As long as it's from my menu. No, but you know what I mean? Like seriously, it's just them feeling empowered. That they can ask for a taco. You can always ask. I'm Spanish.
So,
you can ask for a taco anytime you want.
Ladies, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking heart, brain, and courage. I'll give myself courage because this took nerves of steel. You're the scarecrow. You are a scarecrow.
You don't even know.
I'm the lion, and I'm very animalistic.
You're the Tin Man.
But
I love it.
I think that Mendez, part of being my right-hand woman, is because you cry. Like, it helps me so much because I have to be so strong all the time. I have to really be able to hold it together. And then Mendez sits at my desk and just cries.
I call
I'm
it,
like,
what
thank you.
You're
You're
my favorite
expressing.
little water faucet eyes. Today I saw you
So
with the
I
kids
have
and
never
was like,
seen you cry
Seth,
so much as
this
this
is
last
what we
2 weeks.
appreciate about
It's
being on the
hard.
spectrum. We don't do that.
And right,
I
no.
saw all the teachers crying. I'm like, this is one of the times that it's good to be us because I'm just not experiencing all of this. All the teachers just crying and looking uncomfortable and red faces, and I was like, we're good.
So what would you say were your most tear-jerking moments? Today was a hard day for
Today was
you.
a really rough day. Madeline,
Leaving.
really just, I'm going to start crying thinking about it. Just to see someone, a child, so inconsolable where she couldn't even breathe because she didn't want to leave school.
Yeah.
That's, to me, like a testament of us, what we do, and just the kids don't want to leave school. For this, even for the summer, the ones that are coming back in September, they don't want to leave for 2.5 months.
Yes.
And just like to know that we've built a place where they feel safe, they feel comfortable being themselves. And one of our mothers came in today. I wasn't even there for it, but when Mrs. Ross was talking about it again, I was crying. One of the mothers came in, and her 7-year-old on the way to school this morning said that he was so happy that she found a school where he's accepted.
Wow.
Like just the way kids see us at these young ages,
They know.
they think of us as like superheroes, and it just
They know.
it
They
wants
get
you to
it.
keep going.
And through the year, like what stands out, like
As
Art
your
tugging
moment.
for the
Mm.
your video for me was the when you put like the collaborations whenever you would do the the
Yes.
montage. I don't know what you want to call it, but like
Yeah, it was a good video.
Well, it's interesting because your role as part of really presenting who we are to the world gives you the chance to step back every day and notice something special that's happening because we miss it. It like flies by. And so you're actually taking the pictures, making the posts.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great
that's
question.
a good person
Like
to have
what
with the heart
like
there.
what stands out for you in reflecting on this year? What was really heart wrenching or heart fulfilling or breaking?
One of the moments that comes to mind, actually a lot of the time, is one of the shows we did actually with the kindergartners
On death.
on the death and them speaking about
I
it.
thought of that when you were saying that.
That's
Yeah,
one
was-
of them that definitely came straight to my mind.
And that I wanted just to interject on that. We had one of our kindergartners who her baby cousin tragically died of SIDS. And the mom said she's just been very inconsolable. She's not talking much about it. Miss Rosalie took her into her fold, and I sat with her, and she had something mixed up in her mind. There was a time where the baby had rolled off the couch when she was playing with him, which had happened months before this. And she thought it was because of that the baby died. So she was carrying this mixed up feeling. We called her mom in. The mom told her, please, you cannot hold this. That is not part of the reason. That happened months earlier. But the idea that she would have carried that for the rest of her life,
Yeah.
if we did, and that was a day where Rosalie had her, and it was chaotic.
Yeah.
And do you remember that?
I remember, being in and out of your office.
And Rosalie said, you have to make time, stop everything. And everything had to stop, and it took up the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that kind of pause is truly, like is what matters, I guess, most if I think about it.
The heartfelt moment.
Right. The other, for me, there were 2 students who left us this year that were completely heartbreaking for me. One was one of our 4th graders who was leaving to just do the last year in another school. So by that point, we have come so far. But that case wasn't so much about him leaving as the parents never talking to us about him leaving and us receiving the request from the school he was going to. I actually can think about it and start crying of, what? He's leaving? They're requesting records?
Yeah, it threw you off for a few days.
It just
I haven't.
broke my heart.
He doesn't want to go.
No, he
Even
doesn't.
this week.
He did not, and we didn't get to celebrate him the way we celebrated our 5th graders. So Madeline, who can cry her eyes out, she was celebrated as the superhero she is. And we named her the Heart of Gold. So part of having the Heart of Gold is your heart is going to lead you in life, and you will cry at endings. So she left with that level of empowerment. And one of the things about having the rituals this week, Rosalie said to me, my mother said to me, who is in the school, so she has grandma wisdom. She said the thing about the 5th graders at graduation, they were all so proud of themselves because every teacher showed up. 20 staff members are there. Their parents are there. They felt so important. It marked it. Like, I have accomplished something. I have arrived at this day where everyone is standing for me.
Right.
But our 4th grader who's leaving will never have that. Like, he won't have that piece of the ritual. And it's so ironic because it threw me for a couple of days. And during that week, his bus made some kind of mistake where they had him going to aftercare somewhere. It was a new bus driver. And so they brought him back to school. We called his mom and said, someone needs to pick him up. And she happened to be traveling for work. She said, I can't pick him up. I'm traveling. There's a babysitter at home who can't leave the house. I can't get him. So I said, I'll drive him home. I'll drive him. And I was driving him home, and I just felt the paradox of it. Like, still, till the very end, I will take care of you in the best way we can. And I remember you said something to me, Lori, about this, because it's always hit me hard, people who leave before the full arc is complete in
Right.
5th grade. And you said, once you get that word, you trust the parent that this is the decision they need to make at this time. And then you start to prepare them to be leaders in where they go next.
Yeah.
And that has helped me so much because it gives me this sense of, okay, they're leaving us, but they can carry our message into the world. And that's where the caring for the child to the very last moment that we have him in our nest. That was the 5th grade student leaving the nest. We will care for you till the last second we have, and then go fly with the mission.
Well, hearing you talk, maybe the full arc isn't just, preschool to 5th grade. maybe it's getting them from point A to point B.
Mm.
Because he started with us in pre-K,
Yes.
and he was hitting teachers, he was running around, and this year he was a student leader.
He was.
So he did complete that full arc.
Absolutely.
Whether
And
he
he
finishes
will
out.
And I
get
think-
something that he can't get with us, which is a certain level of technology and a bigger community. True.
But I do think that when you say the word community, and this is not judgment about this, but in general talking, it's as it should be, and he will complete his arc. It's not him that you, I guess, lack faith in for that. But the part I think that is hard to just contemplate, make sense of, is because we have a strong belief, and it's like, so what do we do moving forward to better make people understand, help them to understand, not make them understand, because you can't make them, but to understand that when you reach that point, you're not finished until you can return it to the community that this happened in.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of a universal thinking for across religion, across
The
different
reciprocity.
races, yeah.
That's and so maybe that is it.
Because one of the things that I find is on Long Island, there's a lot of, this is just talking facts now, like the competitiveness of some private schools, or I guess the perceived competitiveness.
Right.
Because
What
I
is
don't
it?
think we ever feel like we're in competition. It's like we're going to do the best we can.
Right.
If they drop in for 24 hours.
Trust me, I
We had a couple
understand
kids that
every
were
small
there
business.
that were there weeks. We knew he was going to leave. There was a time we knew some kids aren't going to last, and we flat out said, so give them everything you got because they're taking it with them.
Right.
Don't hold back. Don't be nice. Don't say we're just inaugurating. It's like, no, this is the last bit you get to squeeze in.
Mhm.
But I think the part that stings as a human, because we're human, it's not a bunch of goddesses educating these kids.
Right.
Don't
No,
be
it's a
mistaken
human.
like we think. No, because sometimes we're like,
That's the quote. That's your
no,
quote,
because
right?
sometimes it's like there's a lot of Zen people at this school. I don't think I'm like one of them, but there's so many that you can be mistaken for thinking like,
No,
there you go, ding.
And we have plenty
And
of type A's at the school too,
But
which
the
we
part
need.
that stings as a human, as a mom, as a school aunt, if you want to call it, or whatever, is that when they reach this point of giving back, other schools get very competitive. They want this as their upperclassmen.
Mm, mm.
But the feeling is, for me, like on a personal level, is like, we built that to be our upper class.
Yes. And
You
I
know,
think
so
that is
that's
the
it.
human part, which and I think that you hit on something, which is if I'm really thinking about it, in the two cases that left the school, the problem was there wasn't the conversation, that reciprocity of we have gained this much and we feel it's time to go, we need to go. And that actually, I think, if I'm starting to clarify, it is one of the most important pieces of who we are at Spark, is that we come to the table.
Yes.
I can have a parent mad at me, not happy with the decision I've made, scared about something, whatever it is, we can come to the table and hear each other out and come to some solution
Well, and I
without
think
being
when it
invested
comes
in.
to a goodbye in any relationship with the community or one-on-one, it needs to be, for example, Seth, if I would be taking him somewhere next year, which I'm not, but if I was, it would have to be Marianne.
This is what I'm
I
thinking.
feel it's he needs them more right
Right.
now, or they need him more. But there can't be anything else. It can't be ego like, they'll accept him now.
Mm.
And because part of us, like as
I got
humans,
what
there's this sense of, because I feel like a lot of schools make this like only the da. Maybe it's not quite that, but they'll make it sound like it, so that just getting a letter like you would now be accepted means you, like, it's like something went on sale. I gotta get it.
Right.
They'll
And-
take us, so we go. But it should be he needs them more. right now, then he needs this school.
Right.
He really needs something that they can offer, and I can name it, or even if I can't,
And
I have a
can
strong
stand
sense as a
behind
parent.
that. Yes.
Or the students here need him.
Mm-hmm.
And at least having that feeling of like, how are you going to argue with that?
Right.
You're not going to try to like, it's not, this school, you guys are everything but wonderful salespeople. So they're not,
That's
so,
true.
God
We'll be
bless
like,
you,
all right,
but-
good luck.
No, but you're
Take
not gonna,
care.
you're not going to try to hard sell them
No.
on another year for sales.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry,
no,
not, I'm,
True.
I'm joking. I mean, but I'm also not. But it's not like you're gonna just try to like force it for a year's tuition. No,
No.
it's not that. But at least it's the heart, and that's something you can never really sell. So it hurts when you feel like it was bought.
Well, and I guess that is back to this. We've talked about it on the show too, where it does boil down to love as a central force, and love, yes, being patient and kind, but love also comes with a level of suffering. It's exactly what you were saying, Seth, when you said, "I'm going to miss you, Principal Marianne." Do you remember that? You just said that.
Yeah.
That is a statement of love.
That's one thing
And-
I've learned from this show is the death show, the infamous Dr. Lee show.
Oh my God! Yes.
And one of the things, my
I
biggest,
forgot.
one of my strongest reactions. Sorry, it's the last show I have.
That was
for everybody
crazy.
to forget what I say
I
today.
totally blanked that
But
show out.
one of the reasons I came in stuttering and shocked on that show, I knew the backstory.
Mhm.
So I didn't come in like, I never heard this before. I came in shocked because it was the first time I realized he didn't say goodbye. And that's what was happening with the students. They weren't going to
True.
say goodbye. And that's the thing that it's like, I love you.
You kiss
and-
the air.
I missed. I'll
She
get
wants
to it in
a
just
real
minute.
kiss. Come over here. I'll
Um,
give you a kiss.
Oh, you love you.
Kiss from Mama.
Now I totally lost track.
It's kiss time. It's kiss
Okay, now we
time.
gotta finish this. What was I saying right before that?
I'm
Let me tell
not
you about
saying
the
goodbye. Saying
It was the goodbye and something the shows that and the death show.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me and hopefully I'll mention it. 'Cause
Good.
I lost my train of
it
thought.
just will come back. That kiss, of course. A kiss wipes it all
So
out.
takes it
That's
out.
why we hug and kiss in school. It gives us that nice amnesia. Other highlights for you, or emotional kind of memories.
I have the little things that you see just walking past a classroom, and like Miss Ross having a kid on her lap while they do work,
Yeah.
or in the reading lab where they're just sitting on the floor. Like those little things that you just see in passing.
Yes, probably one of the things I'm most proud of, and we've talked a lot of it about it on our show, which is our work with special needs students. So what we're really trying to do, and I think accomplish, is give our special needs students a sense of complete typical education, and to see our more typical students interact with our special needs students, work together, create. It is happening, and there was something that we talked about last year too, Lori, around moving from this idea of special needs, from tolerating our neurodiverse students to actually accepting that human beings are neurologically diverse.
Right.
And one is not above someone else. In the world of tolerance, the more typical or gifted student holds a mindset that I learn better than the not typical. And that is being erased. And part of the reason I think it's being erased is because of the STEAM program, the hands-on, out-of-the-box, the art program, the Reggio program, giving these opportunities for creative genius, for engineering genius to come to the surface, which we really see in our children who are not typically typical learners.
Right.
And so that is definitely one of the areas that I have been very
think-
inspired
I
by.
think it's got a ways to go. It always will.
Yes.
But it's also come so far because one of the things with my older son that I mention once in a while, one of my biggest struggles when we knew he was on the spectrum and we had to start doing social skill work and all of this, as a mom, I don't know if this can translate, but like, and being on the spectrum myself, I wasn't satisfied and I wasn't okay with people saying like, this is the proper thing to say, to do, how you act, how your body is held, and you can get people to do that. But I didn't like teaching him the best way to say things just for the sake of saying it right, because I didn't want him, I'm like, I don't like the idea of him learning to express something that is comforting to everybody else, but it's not representative of what's inside of him.
You wanted him to have an authentic voice.
Right, and
find
and
his
to be
voice.
and that's, I mean, that's decades ago, but it still has that feeling of like that hurts, and to tell them like, you act like this because it just makes it easier for everyone else. And people don't say that, but they're saying that.
Mhm.
Also, and it hurts. And when you were saying about getting along, I have genuine relationships. This is the part I might get choked up with a lot of people at this school. And even though you could have friendships and tolerance to different degrees, there's this like kind of mistaken thinking that people on the spectrum like to tolerate them. It's like they're doing pretty well if they're tolerated, but we know the difference. We
Oh
can
my
tell,
gosh.
and
yes.
and maybe you've gone to classes that in many ways will be more respectful about things that we notice more strongly, because you've also can identify markers for different things, and we also misidentify. So if people are just tolerating, one of two things happens. First, you're tolerant, and we think you're so cool with us that we just keep being more annoying. No, and it's an awful, but we're never gonna get very far in a relationship because you're just tolerating, and when you leave, you're like, oh my gosh, like, but where you're thinking like, I'm gonna just keep doing the same dance because you like me there. And the other thing is, we know that we're just being tolerated. Like we can I still recognize abbreviated answers. I still recognize rigidity in people, even though and we also have genuine hurt. But I have genuine friendships with people like you and I. Like, you've let me come to be on the show. I know how I am. I know my awkward things. They're pointed out a lot, but people see it and talk to me normal, and I with them, and we talk about being parents, it's never talking about this one aspect of who I am. It's like once in a while we laugh about quirks that we all have, but it's not just, I'm not at the school as like my older son, when he would go to school, when he was really accepted into a class, it always had that feeling of like he was accepted kind of like a class project, a class
Well,
test.
yes, exactly.
Where they're
It's
like, come on, Shay, we're going to recess.
You are a
And you don't
natural
want-
helper, so you can help the kid who doesn't have a friend. Yeah.
And that hurts too, like when people are just taking you in. But here we're having, it's genuine relationships, and I feel strongly, you guys have to correct me now because if not, this is a whopper. I feel like we are each better for it.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
genuinely feel like you're
Absolutely.
better for having me, and I'm better for having you guys
100%.
because of the difference, not in spite of.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yeah, can you imagine if I said all that? You guys are like,
Really?
ooh.
Are we better? What did I just say that?
Oh,
I don't know.
Lori! No, because that happens, where people are like, oh yeah. But because if not, you may as well put them in a little thing, and like Courtney brought the puppy and take turns holding the puppy. We don't want that, but we also don't want to be ostracized.
Right.
So, right, Sethy?
Seth, what are you thinking about? You've been quiet for a long time.
The hearts, that dragon.
So what do you think about our symbol of the dragon?
That means.
What does it mean?
That means Education for Inspired Life or Spark Elementary.
Well,
That's
what do you think education
That's-
for an inspired
Oh, I
life
mean,
means?
That's the symbol for our school.
So why do you think our symbol is a dragonfly with a heart head?
Because that's our favorite symbol.
Why? What does it represent?
Because it just is.
It just is what it is.
Yeah?
That is our
Right.
symbol for sure. And I'm kind of really liking it. Do you have a favorite memory from this year? That's what we're talking about.
I know.
Do you have a favorite thing that you did this year besides tacos?
I know what
Do you have something that was just good fun or a
I know
good
what-
good thought about school this year from the very beginning until now?
Yeah, this is my second time I've been here.
Yes, this
Yes.
is your second year. And tell me, what was your favorite thing this year in Mrs. Ross's class?
I don't know.
It's too hard to come up with. Do you have a favorite friend?
Her.
Mom is a great friend. What
and
makes
Dad.
her such a good friend?
Me?
Because she loves you. Wow!
My hair's still
I love her.
I love you too, sweetie. I love you.
You guys are pals, right?
Yes.
I love her. I love her.
And I actually enjoy Seth more because I go to school and I get to enjoy him just as a mom
Yes.
after school because instead of homeschooling, and this is actually with me being in school, like,
So true. And
Uh,
this year
it makes
you
a
separated
difference.
from him a
and
lot in
next year
school.
is going to be even more. I've already told everybody, like, go to do what you would do if I
You've
wasn't
been
here.
great with that this year. Seth, one of my favorite memories of you this year was when you got to play the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood.
What?
I loved that.
Yeah, just heard.
Do you remember last year when talking about reflecting when he wouldn't go on the stage? Do you
For the
remember
kindergarten
I left
graduation.
almost in tears.
Right.
And that's when he had made so much progress that there was this certain level of gratitude that he went into the room at all.
Right.
But
And this year he
wasn't
was on
even- I
stage
was asking
dressed
Kristen,
as a
do we
wolf.
have a plan? Because my picture is still like it's not going to happen. And he was fine. It was me that hadn't done the catch up
Oh my
with
gosh.
where he had reached. And he
I
was fine.
loved when you were dressed like Granny. The wolf, do you remember that? Come on, yes you do. It was just yesterday.
Well, he's on you. I wanted to ask you, Principal Marianne, because there's so many memories and people, and we're good. What is your as opposed to like a distinct memory, but like what's a good lesson for you this year? What has been a running theme or recurring lesson that you've had, or that you finally got?
Yeah, that's true.
Even if it's still in the works. I mean, but what have you learned about you or your school or your people this year?
Well, first, I don't think this is new. I just came to trust and appreciate just how our community shows up every day and gives their absolute best. So I have such gratitude for that. But I think the lesson for me was really having to make clear-cut decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a problem solver and as a listener, I love to take in every possible idea. It's part of why I love having you on the show and you on the show, the heart and the mind, because for me, it's like, yes, give me another perspective. Talk in a way that will make me think about it in a new way. And the more expansive I get, the less decisive I'm going to get because, everything is a possibility.
Right.
So I've had to really come to a place of drawing clear-cut lines and standing by them. And that level of it's not a good or a bad, but it is based on everything I've gathered, I'm making this decision. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm gonna have to come back to the table and reevaluate it, but as of now, I'm drawing this line. And part of drawing the lines, the hard lines, I think it's part of the reason for at least losing one of our students that we were talking about, the 2 students that we lost this year, is because I did draw a hard line as I think you need to do this. And when a parent says, no, I'm not gonna do this, then I run the risk of losing that student. But that becomes but the lesson of that is, for me, if my intention is aligned in truly good practice and what is best for our children, then I can live with the consequence of my choice. And I am certainly humble enough and not, locked in to holding on to a decision if it really isn't a good one. So I think that's what I would say. Would you say that I was more decisive this year?
Yes.
You would agree? Yeah, so I'm thinking that's along those lines. Boom, make the decision, go forward, see how it is, keep moving. How about you, Chris? A lesson?
I think this year it was just to kind of be in the moment, embrace what's happening, and kind of be happy with what's happening. Because I know my phone is like that too. Because one of, again, relating actually to one of the moments that stuck out to me most was when I came back after leaving.
Yes.
I was thinking when you were saying this, like, what
You
about
return.
personally and how
Yeah.
much you've grown this year?
And I see it too, and I normally don't see it growth in myself. But
This year, I was telling you, I thought it was just like from sitting with Mary Ann, remember I said, because you sit with her, so much has happened this year for you.
yes, and I'm a lot more aligned. I'm happier, and I'm just going with it.
And we've really seen your true gift of being able to really understand what it means to, marketing has a certain falseness to it, where you truly can connect with what is beautiful at our school and bring it forward. And part of your return, we had already filled your position on our budget line. So there was no money. We were like, but we could not say no because of your value, because of your heart and commitment. And when you line up that way, money comes. Another student signs up and we're okay. And so we have been grateful since the day you walked back in.
Yeah.
How about your lesson, Miss Lori?
Oh, so many lessons. I had a lazier year than I usually have, but it was good.
What does that mean, lazier? You don't feel like you worked as hard?
I know.
That means you were getting used to it. You're relaxing.
Um,
You're making authentic connections.
No, I think too, just like
I was lazy.
no,
Who
because
says
I like
that?
to
Who
be
says they were
honest
lazy?
people.
The principal.
No, honest people, because when I have she said
Right? No, she said to the principal. You say that to the principal. I was
Yeah,
really lazy this year. I didn't work to my capacity.
but it was also there's times and
I'm
it was
eating chocolate.
it led to in an observational way. So I have to say,
I cannot share it. What does it taste like?
what do you imagine?
Nuts and chocolate.
I learned also to appreciate.
Let Mama finish.
I want to tell.
Because then we're closing out the show and we can eat chocolate.
I learned to appreciate different styles of living, teaching, because there's certain things, and I'll say it because I think I'm less afraid to say it, and I'm a volunteer at Spark, so I can get away with saying a little more.
You're
I
allowed
have
to be
certain
lazy.
aversions to some things that people do in teaching, in there's softer teachers, harder teachers, there's in between, there's not an ideal, and there's your personality, there's different styles, and it was me just kind of understanding that kids need a little bit of all of it, because there's times when before I would see certain things about not being in a school, and you'd see something people would do, and I'd be like, ooh,
That's why it's so great to have a full team.
I don't, you know, like, my reaction, and this is just reactive, would be like, I don't see how that's good for the child, I don't see how that's,
Mhm.
but then when you see people, they're not who they are on their best or worst day, they're both.
Mhm.
And most of the time, it's this in between thing. So sometimes you catch and the other thing is, like if you hear somebody, we'll say just as an example, because I'm pretty soft with kids for the most part.
Mhm.
I have my limitations, but they're out there compared to people that actually have to report something officially where the kid started and ended. So sometimes I'll see people like draw the lines, and I'm like, I don't know. But then when I think about it, after seeing people over and over for 2 years, because it takes me a while to learn things, it's like you can't decide how somebody's been with a child. You don't know if this is their 5th conversation, their first, there's
a much
their
fuller
5th
story.
year talking. So you can't judge in that sense. And also you have to have faith, at least for our present situation and location with you guys, that you guys have vetted them. You know, like it doesn't, like you know who's in
100%.
your school.
I do.
So I don't, so if I'm
100%.
not familiar, all of a sudden I'm tossed in a class with you and I see you teaching, not to say you because I haven't, and you know how I feel about you. But I mean, if I see something, I have to be like, I don't have to judge somebody on day 1 what I see, day 20 if that's all I have, because it's enough to know, like, Marianne knows what she's doing. And she knows what she's bringing the kids to this one for.
And again, the humanness of it all, our students have the right to come to me and say, I think this teacher doesn't like me for some reason. And we go and have a conversation with that teacher. It is a respect for the teacher and the relationship. And one of those conversations I had this year, the teacher was able to very honestly express the frustration of having to repeat directions over and over and feel disrespected. And that does create a certain relationship. So it is an absolute, we're going back to reciprocity. What you give is what you get. And what you get is what you give, and we can get into patterns that need to be broken without a sense of the judgment that you're talking about. And there was a moment this year where I saw you absolutely draw a line in a different way. It's when we talked about, we created our bullying program, and there was a certain behavior that you just were like, no. This is not in line, and you were able to be firm about it. And I actually loved seeing that in you.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I can't even think what it is.
but it made me
No, that's
feel like there are some things that each and every one of us are aligned in here at Spark, and that is we stand behind what it means to be kind.
Right.
And it has to do with alignment, and it has to do with never intentionally hurting anybody. And the case that I'm talking about, there was an intention. And that's where you were just like, no, and that was between kid and kid. So with that said, as we come to the end of our first season, there's still more to talk about. But we will do a mindful inhale and big exhale. We made it through a full school year as Spark with a lot to be proud of, a lot more to grow and to reflect and to move forward. Thank you all for being with us, and we look forward to carrying on and starting up again next September. So till then, have a beautiful, happy summer. We are having an open house.
Learning doesn't stop also in the
Yes,
summer.
we have summer programs going on Spark.
We're going
We
home
have the
to work.
academic program. We have the fun program. And we do have open houses going all summer. So check us
If you
out.
think it wasn't for you, you change your mind, stop in and be like, I thought I was going to have all this fun. They're not having fun anyways.
Come on
I
in.
want to jump in on the summer program late. Do it.
Absolutely. Have a great
Bye.
summer, everybody. Thank
bye,
you for
Seth.
watching. Bye, Seth.